Story 1: The Abandoned School. Exploring abandoned places has always intrigued me, so when I heard about an old school rumored to be haunted, I gathered a couple of friends and set out for an adventure. The building loomed ahead, its broken windows like dark eyes watching us. As we stepped inside, a musty smell enveloped us, and the floor creaked under our weight, each step echoing in the silence. As we wandered through the dusty classrooms, I felt a chill creeping down my spine. It was as if the air was thick with whispers of the past. My friends laughed and joked to ease the tension, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. In one classroom, we found old desks and faded posters still clinging to the walls. I approached a chalkboard, half covered in dust, when I noticed a handprint smudged in the grime. Just then, a loud bang reverberated from the hallway, causing us to jump. We exchanged nervous glances, but curiosity got the better of us, and we decided to investigate. As we moved toward the source of the noise, the temperature dropped sharply. I could see my breath in the air, and an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. We reached the hallway and noticed a door slowly creaking open at the far end. It was an old wooden door, its hinges groaning as if protesting against being disturbed. We hesitated, but the curiosity pulled us closer. As we neared the door, I could hear faint laughter echoing softly, like children playing. I felt a strong urge to run, but I couldn't bring myself to leave without knowing what was inside. Pushing the door open, we found a dimly lit room filled with old desks and chairs strewn about, as if a class had been interrupted. And in the center, a small child in an old-fashioned uniform sat, playing with a tattered ball. I blinked, and in an instant, she was gone, leaving only the sound of the ball rolling across the floor. We bolted out of the school, not looking back, the laughter of the children echoing in our ears long after we left. Story 2: The Whispering Woods. During a camping trip with friends, we decided to explore a nearby forest known for its stunning beauty. As we hiked deeper into the woods, the sunlight dimmed, and the trees seemed to close in around us. The atmosphere shifted, becoming heavy and oppressive. I felt an unease settle in my stomach, but I didn't want to ruin the mood, so I kept my concerns to myself. As night fell, we set up camp and gathered around the fire, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows. But as the darkness deepened, I began to hear soft whispers floating through the trees. At first I thought it was just the wind, but the voices grew clearer, calling out in a language I didn't understand. My friends were laughing, unaware of the growing tension in the air. Later, as I tried to sleep, the whispers grew louder, weaving through the branches like a haunting lullaby. I sat up in my sleeping bag, heart racing, and peered into the darkness. The shadows danced, and I could have sworn I saw figures moving among the trees, their forms indistinct but filled with intent. I shook my friend awake, but he groggily dismissed my concerns. Unable to sleep, I stepped outside the tent, hoping to shake off the feeling. As I stood in the cold night air, the whispers crescendoed, enveloping me. "Join us. Join us." They beckoned, chilling my blood. I felt a presence behind me, and when I turned, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the clearing, watching me with hollow eyes. I stumbled back, retreating into the tent, and shook my friends awake, insisting we leave. We packed up in a frenzy and left the campsite, the whispers trailing behind us like a dark fog. Even now, I can't shake the feeling that something in those woods wanted me to stay, and I often wonder what might have happened if I had listened. Story 3: The Cursed Locket. While browsing a flea market, I came across an ornate locket that caught my eye. Its intricate design and beautiful gemstone drew me in, and I couldn't resist purchasing it. The seller warned me that it was cursed, but I dismissed it as a silly superstition. After all, it was just a piece of jewelry, right? That night, I wore the locket to dinner with friends. As the evening progressed, I began to feel uneasy, as if a weight were pressing down on my chest. I brushed it off, attributing it to my imagination. However, when I returned home, I noticed a strange sensation, an almost electric energy radiating from the locket, pulsing against my skin. Days turned into weeks, and strange occurrences began to plague me. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find the locket lying on the floor, despite having placed it on my nightstand. My dreams were filled with dark figures and ominous whispers, and I often felt an unseen presence watching me. My friends noticed my unease and urged me to get rid of the locket, but I couldn't bring myself to part with it. One evening, after another restless night, I sat on my bed staring at the locket. Suddenly, it flew open, revealing a faded photograph of a woman I didn't recognize. As I gazed at her, a cold wind rushed through my room, extinguishing the candles. I could hear her voice, clear and desperate, pleading for help. The temperature dropped sharply, and I felt icy fingers wrap around my throat. Panicked, I hurled the locket against the wall, shattering it. The wind stopped instantly, and the oppressive feeling lifted. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but I knew I could never forget the curse that had lingered in that delicate piece of jewelry. I vowed never to buy anything from a flea market again. Story 4. The Ghostly Hitchhiker. Driving home late one night, I noticed a figure standing on the side of the road. It was a woman in a white dress, her hair disheveled, looking lost and forlorn. My heart raced with concern, and I pulled over, rolling down my window. "Do you need a ride?" I asked, feeling a mixture of curiosity and fear. To my surprise, she smiled faintly and climbed into the passenger seat. I could see that her eyes were filled with a sadness I couldn't explain. As I drove, she told me she was trying to get home, but she didn't seem to know where that was. I glanced over at her, and in that moment, I felt a chill grip my spine. There was something ethereal about her presence, as if she were more shadow than substance. We chatted briefly, but her responses were oddly vague, and I found it hard to focus. As we approached a dark stretch of road, she pointed to a nearby street. "Take that road," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the engine. I turned, feeling compelled to follow her directions, but as I drove, I glanced over to find the seat beside me empty. Panic surged through me, and I slammed on the brakes, my heart racing. I scanned the area, but there was no sign of her. I stepped out of the car, my breath visible in the cold air. "Hello?" I called, but the night was silent, the only sound my own heartbeat. When I returned to the car, I noticed something on the seat. Her white dress. I picked it up, and as I did, I felt an overwhelming sadness wash over me. I later learned that a woman had died in a car accident at that very intersection many years ago. I shivered, realizing I had encountered the ghostly hitchhiker, forever searching for a way home. Story 5. The Eerie Music Box. While cleaning out my grandmother's attic, I stumbled upon an old music box covered in dust. It was beautifully crafted, with intricate designs etched into the wood. Curious, I wound it up, and as the haunting melody filled the air, I felt a chill run down my spine. The tune was familiar, evoking a strange sense of nostalgia, but I couldn't place it. That night, I placed the music box on my nightstand, unable to resist the urge to listen to it again. As the notes floated through the room, I began to feel drowsy. I closed my eyes, but when I opened them again, I found myself in a different place. I was in a dimly lit ballroom, surrounded by elegantly dressed couples dancing to the same eerie melody. The atmosphere was enchanting, yet unsettling, and I felt a presence beside me. A figure in a dark suit extended his hand, inviting me to dance. I hesitated but found myself unable to resist. As we twirled across the floor, I felt a sense of foreboding. His grip was cold, and I caught glimpses of shadowy figures lurking at the edges of the room. Suddenly, the music changed, becoming discordant and frantic. The dancers around us began to fade, their faces twisted in fear. I felt myself being pulled away from the man, panic rising within me. I fought to break free, but the music grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. Just as I thought I would be lost forever, I woke up in my bed, the music box still playing beside me. I never wound it up again, and I placed it in the back of the attic, hoping to bury the memory of that haunting dance. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the faint echoes of the melody, and I can't help